It was argued throughout the extradition proceedings that due to the nature of the case against him and the information that he has provided, that there is a risk to his personal safety. And certainly when he was in the United Kingdom, he had security assigned to him for the duration of these proceedings. We also have to be aware that when Interpol first issued a red notice warrant against him, I was instructed to challenge that, and that challenge was upheld on the basis that Interpol itself considered the case against him to be politically motivated. So of course there are concerns. We know that he is being detained in solitary confinement. We are concerned as to the conditions of his detention, and of course that is a matter that we will continue to raise with the authorities here, with the UK authorities, and pursuing other legal remedies before the European Court and through UN bodies. Well, in terms of the charges being changed or amended in any form, obviously the Montenegrin court is bound by the charges contained in the extradition order, so they can't amend those charges, they can't bring new charges. It is just a question that he can only be tried for those charges as contained in the extradition order by the English court. So that's the first point. The second point, there is obviously very real concern, and it was argued during the proceedings, that the prosecutor or the prosecutors that brought this case, Milivoje Katnić and Sasha Đukanović, are both now in jail themselves, facing very serious charges. And of course, that undermines the legitimacy of the case against him. Of course, it's going to be up to his legal team to present the best defence they can before the Montenegrin courts, but of course we have always maintained and continue to maintain that the evidence against him is very weak. So I was previously instructed to represent a US national who was targeted by the special state prosecutor at the time, Milivoje Katnić, in relation to the attempted coup case. He also had an Interpol warrant issued against him. That warrant was also dismissed for being politically motivated. And of course, the evidence that I put forward as a witness in Dr. Knežević's extradition case was on the basis that my client was targeted politically and that there were threats made to him and his partner in his business, and also to his wife, because they were trying to convince him to give evidence for the prosecution, and using threats in order to obtain his cooperation. Of course, that process has now been brought to an end, and the prosecutor involved in that is now in jail facing charges. So the experience obviously has not been a pleasant one, but obviously we are satisfied that the current prosecutor is obviously trying to make amends for things that have been done in the past. And so we have to place our trust in the independence of the judicial system in this country, in the independence of the prosecutor's office to deal with this matter properly, and certainly we expect the charges against Dr. Knežević to not proceed. Well, obviously Dr. Knežević has a very experienced team of Montenegrin lawyers who will have to argue that case in court here. I'm not a member of the Bar of Montenegro, so we are assisting his legal team here as advisors, and we will assist throughout this process. The issue of custody, obviously, one of the concerns that we do have that will be argued is that he was extradited 7 days ago. This morning was the first time he was able to see his lawyer. So he was held for 7 days without access to a lawyer, without access to his family, and without being brought before a judge. And that's a very serious issue. And that's certainly not in accordance with Montenegrin law. All of those points will have to be argued. And of course, there is absolutely no reason why, with appropriate conditions, that Dr. Knežević cannot be released on bail so that he can defend himself from liberty. And certainly that's what we would expect the court to do. Of course, there's been a great deal of speculation as to why he was extradited and what's going to happen from here. It would not be appropriate for me to speculate on any of those matters. Of course, that they may well come out during these proceedings, and again, that's going to be a matter for the courts to determine the extent to which that is argued in Dr. Knežević's case. Again, I can't speak to Dr. Knežević as to what he is going to present as part of his defence. Again, I'm aware the statements have been made. There are very credible allegations towards individuals in high positions in this country, and of course they all need to be properly investigated. Of course, Dr. Knežević has always maintained that he is being targeted and has always been targeted by the former president because of allegations that have been made, and that's why he's here now. It's our job as his lawyers to argue his case properly before the appropriate court and for those authorities to make the right decision.